Don't worry, the title's not clickbait, this is just one of the craziest entitled parent stories you'll ever hear. Entitled Mum broke my $55,000 wheelchair. Dear Entitled Mother, thank you so very much for your complete and utter lack of patience when getting on the bus, which resulted in breaking part of my $55,000 wheelchair and me needing to call the police for help. Okay, here we go. So I was on the bus tonight heading towards a workshop that I was fairly excited for. Things were great until slightly before my stop when two adults got on, one with a toddler and the other wheeling a stroller. It is strict corporate policy that all strollers must be folded before being brought onto the bus, but not enough drivers actually enforce it, and this was one of those monster Cadillac strollers to boot. The Entitled Mum brought her unfolded stroller on the bus and, seeing the front entirely occupied by disabled people, including myself, decided to push past towards the back. Only her behemoth of a stroller wouldn't fit in the space available, and she started ramming it along my wheelchair to plow it through. Hey, watch it! The Entitled Mum keeps trying to squeeze through. Careful, I can feel you tugging at stuff. But the Entitled Mother just doesn't stop. Finally, she managed to push through and move back. I fumed for the next few blocks, pushed the button for my stop, turned on my wheelchair, and got a left brake disconnected error. I tried again, repeated errors. Fuck! The next several minutes were spent with the bus pulled over, passengers getting mad at me for causing a delay, while I panic trying to figure out how to get off the bus. Finally, a guy flipped my electric/freewheel release switch on and off several times, and that managed to convince my chair to work for me to get off my bus and get about 15 feet away, before my chair suddenly turned itself off. I turned it back on. It started throwing up a charger inhibit error, which basically is the error you get when you try to start moving when you're still plugged into the wall outlet. The next hour was a progression of events that saw me sitting on the ground with the back of my chair opened up as I went through everything trying to figure out what the ever-loving frick was going on. And here's photo evidence of that exact thing happening. I even called the police because I wasn't sure how I'd be able to get home. My wheelchair repair company doesn't have after-hours service. In the end, I discovered that two different things had gotten disconnected, and when I fixed them, my chair started up just fine. The lovely officer helped me get the cover back on my chair, and more importantly, helped me get safely back into my chair. I said frick it, skipped the workshop, went home, showered the icky sidewalk off of me, and had a couple of beers. None of this would have happened if that entitled mother had just taken one goddamn second to fold her stroller up. Or, I don't know, stopped when I repeatedly asked her to? But no, she was far too important to do such basic stuff like that. And yes, my wheelchair is actually $55,000. I know that sounds like a lot, but given that according to order form I just looked at, the joystick cover alone is $85, it doesn't surprise me at all. It has 3 different tilt/adjustment settings that drives the cost up enormously. I love shouting at people who drive too close to me that my wheelchair costs more than their car. Now, you may still be thinking, wait, how can your chair cost more than a Tesla? But this comment explains it quite clearly. Yes, unfortunately, disability is big business. My friend is an ambulatory wheelchair user. She uses crutches sometimes to walk very short distances and to stand. And there is so much stuff available that would make so many things in her life easier or just possible, but it's all super expensive. And because we're poor, there's not much we can do. She can't even afford clips to attach the crutches to the wheelchair, let alone a battery pack for the chair that would mean I don't have to push her everywhere. Now, someone asked how much are the clips and battery. The battery is £2,000, the clips are less. So it's pretty clear, if the battery alone is £2,000, you can see how a high-tech wheelchair could get up to that $55,000 figure. But I guess the cost of any piece of tech doesn't matter to an entitled parent, they'll just break it without a care in the world. Moving on to our next story, mother thinks she has rights to my child and treats him like a doll to show off. Honestly, I just need a place to vent. My mother is the entitled parent in this story. Her and I have never had a great relationship. She resented me growing up because she was a single mum and never wanted children. She would never spend time or engage with me and would instead throw money at me to show she cared. Now I'm grown up and independent and just had a baby of my own, and she feels entitled to my son. Okay, hold up, so she blames her own child because she didn't want a child in the first place, but she was the one who actually had the child, so whose fault is that? I have made certain decisions about his upbringing that I'm trying to adhere to. Nothing crazy, just trying to avoid using unnecessary products on him. No baby lotion, no diaper cream unless he gets a rash, homemade baby food, etc. He's now 4 months and it has been working well for us. My mother is very insistent that she gets to see him 2 to 3 times a week. She refers to herself as Glamour, a mix of glam and grandma, and has already procured a few items that say best grandma ever. I have been very hesitant to let her watch him for extended periods of time. I didn't have the best upbringing and honestly believe she would not do what's best for my son. She has always been a very materialistic person and extremely concerned about the image she presents to other people. So I get anxiety thinking of him staying overnight at her place. She keeps asking for him to spend the night, saying she's doing it for me because I need to sleep, but I know it's because she likes the novelty of having a baby around. She first started asking for him to spend the night at her place when he was 2 weeks old. I have said no every time. When she was first allowed to babysit him, I had to set ground rules because she kept trying to plan parties whenever he was over. She was trying to show him off to all her friends and neighbors. The thing is, he is a baby. Large groups of people are not good for babies because their immune systems are weak, and our city has had a number of measles outbreaks. I had to tell her repeatedly that she couldn't be inviting groups of strangers over to pass him around like a doll. She finally agreed, and I let him spend a few hours at her place. Still, she kept asking for him to spend the night. She also calls me every day asking when he is going to visit her again and offering to take him off my hands for a few days like he is an inconvenience. My husband had to go to BC for a wedding, so I was alone for a week. It was hard. 6 days into it and I was at the end of my rope. I had barely had any adult interaction and had only slept 3 hours a day, so I called my mother up and asked her if my son and I can spend the night at her place. I needed sleep but didn't want to leave him there without me all night, so I figured that this would be a good compromise. I would be available if anything went wrong and she would get off my back about him staying over. She had been nagging me for weeks about how I should just give him pablum and he would sleep through the night. He was a preemie and our pediatrician said to wait for solids, but she thought she knew best. I had to constantly tell her not to feed him anything but his milk. The night came where I was supposed to go to her place. I get there and there are 15 other people over. Turns out she was having a dinner party. Whether or not she had arranged this before I asked to come over, I don't know. I told her my son goes to bed at 8 and I really needed to sleep. She assured me everyone would be gone by 9. That didn't happen. They ended up starting a bonfire and she's trying to get me to sit by the fire with my son. I tell her I don't want him around all that smoke, he's only 4 months old, so he needs to stay in the house. Besides, it's 8 and he needs to go to bed. She tells me I'm being unreasonable and should just let him sleep by the fire. I put my foot down and say no. He ends up in his bassinet and I'm waiting for the party to be done so I can finally sleep. Because my husband has been gone and I have been dealing with the babe on my own for 6 days, my sleep schedule has been completely out of whack. I was hoping to take some sleeping pills to get a good night's rest since she was going to eat him through the night. Wait, what? Has she suddenly turned into a cannibal? So now I'm waiting for her to come in and take over for me. 10 rolls around and she pops in for a drink before heading back out. I ask her again how late the party is going to go since I am desperate to get some sleep. She tells me it should be over soon, again, and that she can't stay in the house because she has guests over and she needs to entertain them. 10:45 comes and she's still at the bonfire. Again, she comes in to grab something and she sees that I'm still up. She tells me that I'm being silly and should just go to sleep. She doesn't seem to understand that I have insomnia and need to take sleeping pills, and I can't do that until someone else can watch my son. The someone being her, since I asked and she offered. I remind her that I was there to sleep and was waiting on her. She then tells me I'm being ungrateful since she had this party planned and she couldn't just ask everyone to leave. Well then why lie about the time that they were going to leave in the first place? She said I should just go to sleep and not worry about my son so much. I guess in the same way that she didn't worry about her daughter so much. I tell her she can't be taking care of him if she's outside. She wouldn't even hear him if he woke up. She said I should stop stressing, that people will leave soon, and went back to her party. 11:30 comes around and I'm so tired I start crying. I can't sleep and I wasn't getting the help I asked for. I decided to just take my son and go home. If I was doing it on my own, I'd rather be around my own things and in my own bed. I pack him up and send her a text saying that she was too preoccupied to watch my son and that we were going home. She didn't even see my message until 12:30. How well could she have watched him if she didn't leave her bonfire until then? I ended up getting a string of messages saying it was unfair of me to take him away, that I shouldn't say she didn't care because she spent $700 on him that day, so obviously she cared. I never mentioned anything about caring or not caring, and also just because she spent a bit of money on him, that doesn't show that she cares at all. She said that I was being ungrateful because if I had stayed, I would have been able to sleep in the morning while she took care of him. I don't trust for 1 minute that she would have done right by him. Her guests were taking up all her time. A week goes by and she asks twice again if he can stay the night at her place. I have no faith in her watching him overnight, but I agree to let her watch him during the day, Saturday. She says she's going to sleep in, but should pick him up around 9 or 10. 11 rolls around and I haven't heard from her. I give her a call and she says she just got home and that they can't pick him up until later, so I should just drop him off at her place. She was supposed to pick him up because she lives 30 minutes out of town on an acreage, but drives right past their house when she goes shopping. I tried telling her it's too inconvenient to drive him to her place, I'll just keep him with me. But she wears me down and I eventually make the drive out to her place. I tell her I'll pick him up in the evening around 9:30 or 10. At 5, I get a text from her saying she's decided to have a bonfire and has invited a bunch of people over. Seriously, the exact same thing as the week before? And I tell her again that I don't want my son sitting out in the hot sun or hanging around the smoke from the fire. I tell her I don't care what she does, but I will pick up my son if she can't watch him. She tells me she is watching him and that I don't need to take him. I go to get him and I'm angry. I've asked her time and again not to have him around groups of strangers or to have him around smoke, and she just won't listen. I didn't even want to send him to her place, but she just kept nagging that she should watch him. So I planned my day around him being with her and then had to cancel a D&D game in the middle of the session because she couldn't respect my wishes. When I pick him up, she starts yelling that I'm being ungrateful. She was doing a great job watching him and how much all her guests are loving him. She tells me that I'm unreasonable and rude. To top it off, she tells me that she's going to tell my Baba about my behavior and that Baba will give me a talking to. What the frick, woman? I should have known better than to try and trust her. She insists on babysitting my dog every weekend. He has pancreatitis and can't eat fatty foods. He gets extremely sick. But she ignores when I say this and continues to feed him bacon because he likes it. If she can't take care of a dog, how the heck did I think she could take care of a child? And the worst is how she keeps acting like a victim, saying I'm treating her unfairly. Man, I really need to get this off my chest. Wow, well this mother is doing amazingly right in the face of an entitled parent. The fact that she has the resolve to stick to her boundaries even when sleep deprived and beyond exhausted speaks massively to her strength. It sounds like this person needs to look at r/raised by narcissists, as her mum is so entitled it's beyond belief. Anyway, thanks so much to those of you that have made it to the end of this video. It is very much appreciated. I hope you all enjoyed and I will see you tomorrow with some more Reddit stories.